Greetings and salutations one and all. Welcome to the night shift. It is Tuesday night. Tonight we do a thing we call Healthy Love. How you doing? Welcome each and every one of you. Big ups to those locked in right now, those who are tuning in on kevinstew.com. Of course, the home of the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. I want to say big ups to those on One Harmony Radio over there in the UK. Top of the morning to you. Big ups to those on WGLRO, home of the Donny Walker Morning Show, taking it from the sheets to the streets on the People's Station from 6 to 10, my bad, a.m. Eastern Time. That's Donny Walker's show. I want to say big ups to each and everyone locked in on PEMGTV.com. Welcome. So glad to have each and every one of you right now. I couldn't do it without you. And trust me, I give you my word, I wouldn't even try. Kicking it up a little Tushi. It's called Best Life. Encouraging the best life. I want to say thanks to Pulse Media Group for sponsoring this segment of the show. When being in the moment is priceless, give them a call for innovative streaming and recording solutions. Give them a link. If you have a website, if you want to create a website, they can hook you up. If you want to host, you want a place to host your website, link them too. If you want to do what you see right here on kevinstew.com, all the streaming, or you have an event that you want to stream live, they got the hookup. Give them a call, 754-999-6020, or visit them at pulsecmg.com. I want to say thanks to Althea and her healing heavenly hands. Althea is a licensed massage therapist operating out of Broad County, North Miami-Dade, South Palm Beach counties. She comes to you, brings her table and her healing heavenly hands. She has oils too. Just give her a call and prove to her that you are clean. As in, not that you took a shower, but taking a shower really helps. Once I have the energy, nothing could ever hold me down. Behave. But just make sure you're COVID clean so you can get your massage. Oh, I still haven't posted my picture from my massage that I got last week. Alright, I will do it. If I don't do it tomorrow, you'll definitely get it before the week is out. I give you my word. But give her a call. She comes to you, like I said, 954-655-9000. Or email her at theolater@att.net. And believe me, you won't be disappointed. Once I have the energy, nothing could ever hold me down. Thanks also to Reggae Global Entertainment for sponsoring. All kind of bad vibes around me. They take care of our third segment. They will act as your booking agent, take care of your tour management, do your business registration, take care of your trademarks, your publishing, your copyrights, music production, marketing and promotion, and so much more. Give them a call, 954-998-8034. Doesn't really matter where in the world you are. You can also check them out on reggaeglobalentertainment.com. And of course, GMAC Music Solutions will take care of our musical therapy a little bit later on. GMAC handles your sound, light, and stage production services, musical equipment, PA system, audio, DJs, audio engineers, that is, DJs, bands, musicians, singers. Give them a call, 754-307-4622. Quick way to remember, 754-307-GMAC. And you can also check them out on gmacmusicsolutions.com. You can do your online shopping there too. So, you know, covering all the bases. Now, of course, you recognize that little giggle that you heard earlier. Because there's no stranger. This night, this healthy love night started with her. Not the artist. Well, she's an artist also. If you ever hear her sing, you know, Jan, you need to go into the studio, you know.
I've heard.
Ladies and gentlemen, all I have to do is hand it over now, because from this point on... Oh, I want to welcome those tuning on Facebook Live. I'm sorry, Facebook Live. Welcome to you guys over there. You know, it's all temporary, so get in while you can. Just jump on over to kevinstew.com. Don't even hesitate. Just say hi on Facebook and just jump over to kevinstew.com. Go into the stew pot where we keep things bubbling. For those of you who don't know what the stew pot is, others call it a chat room. That's because they're boring. But we're fancy over here. We call it the stew pot. It's where we keep things bubbling and interactive. Come on in, be a part of the ingredients. It's a judgment-free zone. We only ask that you keep it clean and share. You can be anonymous if you want to. You can change your name and change your profile and use a name, a legit name, or a fictitious name, whichever you choose. But nonetheless, it's judgment free. Nothing will be held against you unless you say you hate my show. That I'll hold against you.
Yeah, I would take that personally.
Yeah, I'm gonna take that personally.
For sure.
But tonight we are joined by our very own Dr. J-Luv, and she is coming to us in a very unique capacity tonight. She is still our resident professional with things health, and still my chiropractor. Hands, I want nobody else laying hands on me. Well, other than Althea, she is my massage therapist. So I have the best of all worlds. I have a massage therapist I can call, and my chiropractor. So
how fortunate are you?
I are very fortunate.
You are very fortunate. And I've called on Thea myself. Matter of fact, I was one of her clients just this past Sunday, and I do have to say I had a fantastic massage. And when I went and worked, I felt so good. I went and worked out a little too hard yesterday, and tweaked my back. Yeah, and tweaked my back a bit. So I'm in my reclining, legs elevated position today because I have to get this back to loosen up. But she did Yeah, I overdid it because I felt so good, you know. I thought, oh my God, yeah, I can twist and turn and carry on. And
Yeah.
I got a little too exuberant out there in the gym, and I
Living your
felt a
best
little
life.
tweak. Living my best life in that gym in the garage, and had a little tweak accident there. So
Was it a tweak
I've been
accident or a
recovering,
twerk
but
accident?
it was probably a twerk accident. So yeah, because the music hits, you feel no pain, so you're jumping around, and then the happy, I call it the happy juices are flowing.
That's right.
You've got those endorphins floating around in the bloodstream. You're feeling great. You're limber. You're loose. And I think I had a little twerk accident.
Yeah.
Was throwing it a little bit too hard,
Just a little bit.
and
Just a toops.
just a wee bit, just a toops, and I had to catch myself. Unfortunately, it was too late,
Mm.
and I'm now paying the price today. But it's okay. I've got it under control.
Right.
Uh, Ice pack is on the back as we speak,
Mm.
and so I have to, yes. So I refrained from taking any meds tonight because I knew I would have to speak, and because I'm a lightweight, I don't normally take pain medication. But when it's inflamed like this, every now and then anti-inflammatory is good to just calm things down a little bit so that I can loosen up enough to go get adjusted. It's just a little bit too tight for me to even have anybody touch me. When I'm in pain, you can't touch me. Like, you have to stay far away.
Right,
I'm
right,
one of
right.
those people. I sit in a corner and rock and hum to myself. Like, you just can't come near me. So once I get it to a level where I can get in and out of the car and function, I'm gonna just jump in and go see
But
my chiropractor.
the joy is when I'm in pain and I come to you, that is one of the very first things you said to me. You would tell me, hey,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're not going to do much of an adjustment today because you're in pain and it doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
exactly. Because your muscles guard up, and you will not relax enough to accept the adjustment.
Right.
So you have to know your body. And for the most part, that's a reflex. It's not something that you can necessarily control.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the way that your body works. It goes into spasm and lockdown to protect you,
Right.
so that you don't do further damage to the area that is already damaged and injured. So, it's you don't want to fight past that. I'm not one of those people that feels like, oh, I'm going to muscle past it and we're going to
Mm-hmm.
get you an adjustment. No, no, no. One of my instructors, I'll never forget, taught me that an adjustment is an agreement between two people. So I have to agree to give the force to the body in the correct line of drive at the specific level of the vertebra that I need to, and your body has to agree to accept that force and do with it what it needs to. So I can't force your body to take the adjustment
Right.
because it just won't. There's times when I just don't force that. I'm like, okay, we're just going to stretch and relax and ice and heat and do whatever else, stim or whatever else today, and then we come back on another day when you're a little bit looser, and then we can move it a little bit more.
Yeah. I
That's
hear a call for Althea coming out. Some healing heavenly hands coming your way.
yeah. Them gonna have a comeback because we have a little situation here. Well, a bit of a situation.
Uh,
So my
Big ups to Donovan. Donovan in the stew pot. Yo, bro, it's been a minute. Donovan is a long time friend of mine. He
Hi,
moved
Donovan.
away, and he's joining us for I don't even know how long. Big up the family for me, bro.
Welcome, Donovan.
All right, so
Mm-hmm.
tonight you will be treating us to some new information. I've been trying to pull this out of you for a little while now, and
Yes, you
I
have.
have managed to get a date and a time, and it is
Mhm.
now.
It is now. It is now. No time like the present.
Right.
So my capacity now is as the creator of the woman's nest.
Mm-hmm.
And the woman's nest really it's a healing place for women, where we really just come to awaken women to their true divine feminine potential by recognizing the power that we possess as women,
Mm-hmm.
and recognizing that power begins in the womb. That there's as above, so below, as within, so without. And in the
Right.
human body, there are representations for things that are divine and celestial, that are a little bit outside of the realm of the natural world. And so the womb is really the seat of consciousness. This is where you come from eternity into the natural, because
Right.
your spirit was out there, hanging around, and then you incarnated into this individual when the egg and sperm met, and you became this person that grew inside your mother's womb, and that was your first experience of this plane of the world that we're in today. And so you came in through that womb, and so that womb, that cocoon, that protective structure was where you started to learn about the world that you were coming into.
Mm-hmm. And a
And
lot of us men have tried all our lives to get back there.
to get back. I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming. So, and continue to die up to your dying day. I know.
Yes, yes.
I know. So that womb then is this is the it really is it's a microcosm of what happens in the eternal, right? So it's a deeply spiritual thing. So for women, our womb is where or it shares our joys or pains or grief. There's something that is really interesting that I mention when we do our workshops and classes and such with women, that if you think about it, when your grandmother was pregnant with your mother, you were present in that womb at that time.
Mm.
Think about that. So when your grandmother was pregnant with your mother, you were also present in your mother's womb as an egg, because a woman is born with all the eggs that she's ever going to have in her lifetime, right? They're already there.
Interesting.
Very interesting, which is one of the reasons why, that these harvesters tell you, get your eggs harvested when you're young, so that if you decide to have children later on, they freeze them so that you can get those eggs that are frozen at that gestation, at that age, versus your eggs when you're 45. Eggs at 35 are a lot more viable, supposedly, than eggs at 45 or 50 even.
Right.
So you want to harvest the eggs when you're like 30 and freeze them so they're frozen at that age. And then if you decide to do in vitro later on, you can always go and grab one of those and with your partner be implanted with a fertilized egg. Mm. So if you think about it, every single one of us was present when our grandmother was pregnant with our mother. So for women, imagine then this connection is there. So your womb is the seat of your consciousness. So every single emotion that your grandmother felt, every pain, every joy, every stress, every negative emotion necessary, if you want to call it that, everything that she felt was transmitted to you at that time. You were, of course, not conscious of it.
Right.
All of those forces, because remember, thoughts become things, and we're kind of waxing a little metaphysical here, but I'm setting up what we're going to start talking about. So if thoughts become things, so every thought that she had translated into an emotion, a thing in you. So you wonder then why sometimes as women we're born with certain ideas, or we're born with certain traits or trends or ways of thinking. Some of it is because of how we're raised, but a lot of it is just intrinsic. Because we've been exposed to these emotions, thoughts, feelings from before we were even conscious of ourselves.
Right.
So it's really deep. So when people go into things like, well, not necessarily past life regression, but you go into things like having someone sit and talk with you about what is it in your past maybe that you think has affected you. Because what I do when I work with women one-on-one is really go back into their childhood. What is it? What was that very first thing that caused you pain? What was that first thing that made you feel like you weren't enough, or made you feel shame, or made you feel unwanted, or made you feel unloved, whatever it was, or made you feel loved? It could be the opposite. What was it that validated you and that made you feel joyful? What was it that made you feel happy? But usually when we're dealing with illness, or we're dealing with malfunction or dysfunction in the womb, it has a psycho-socio-emotional-physio-spiritual connection in some way, shape, or form.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah,
Take me through that connection again.
There's psycho, which is psychological, physio, which is physiological, the body itself.
Mm-hmm.
Socio, meaning your social surroundings,
right.
Your social interactions. Psycho-physio, socio, mental, so your mental state, and emotional component. There's an emotional component and a spiritual component.
So the psycho and the mental don't go together?
Sometimes, not always. It depends. And we can split that. We can split those hairs a little bit later on. But yeah, okay. There's a little bit of a difference, and it's a subtle shade of difference. But yes, it does. There's a little difference there.
Okay.
So all of those different components contribute to the health or the dis-ease of the entire body, but particularly the womb in women. You ever notice when a mother tells you, Lord, my picnic head I hurt him, I'm feel my belly move. You know, Jamaica, your
Right.
mother will tell you feel our belly move, and she grabs her stomach. It's not so much the stomach, it's all of her womb. That is really where she feels it, right?
Right.
Because that's a seat of emotion. So a lot of, be it positive or negative emotions, focus their energies there, and so we start to see malfunction and dysfunction in the womb.
And
And you wonder,
someone,
well, where did this come from?
yeah, it was just said in the stew pot, that would explain why us women get that feeling in the area of our womb when something isn't right.
Exactly. Right? It's a gut instinct. And men wonder, well, I have a stomach, but I don't have a gut. Men have some gut instinct, but ours is a little bit deeper. When a woman feels something in her gut,
I was
it's
about
not
to
just
say,
her GI tract. It's not just
yeah.
her GI tract, because men have guts too, but you don't have the womb with that additional intelligence that shows you, that tells you, okay, something is up here. I'm not quite sure. So when a mother tells you, don't go out today, I had a dream. You always have a dream, right? The mother always have a dream about something.
Right.
Is that a dream? Don't go on the road today. And you're like, oh God, help us. She's like, like
Yeah,
seriously.
here we go again.
And,
Yeah.
but Liz, right? And yes, a lot of murder, but then you go out on the road and God forbid something happens, right? And then you come back and say, how did this woman know? Like, what is going on? Is seriously? Like she's seeing into the future or something? But mothers know. I'll never forget when I was in school, I was in undergrad at the time in DC, and I was living in a house with roommates, and we were fine all along. And my mom called like on a Friday, a Thursday evening, and she said, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yes." She said, "I had a dream." I said, "Oh boy, here we go." So what was the dream? She said, "I had a dream that there were four bunnies in a pot and they were burning."
Hmm?
I said, "Okay." I thought it was strange, but all right. She said, "Well, you guys all right?" I said, "Yeah, we're fine. Like, what are you talking about? You know, please, like, stop it." So I thought nothing of it.
Right.
And the Friday, I think I probably went over to my cousin's and stayed over there and then came back home Saturday. Saturday, I come home. One of my roommates says, "Oh my God, we almost burned the house down." I'm like, "What? What happened?" One of the roommates had four eggs in a pot on the stove and
Mm-mm.
forgot it. Went downstairs into the basement because he was living in this one guy that lived with us. He lived in the basement. The girls lived upstairs. He left the four eggs on the stove and they were boiling. The pot boiled down, burned like blue, black, red. You know, when it starts glowing, the metal starts glowing.
Right. Right.
Had burned it all the way down to the point where it stuck to the stove, and we like there was almost a fire.
Wow.
Yeah, like my mother used to scare me like that all the time. Very scary. So, and you all can probably attest to stories like that of your mother,
Yeah.
telling you something and then it happens exactly like that. And I had to call her back. I said, "Listen to me, Miss Wizard Woman. Listen to me, Miss Fear Woman." I said, I don't know what she tapped into, but yeah, almost burned the house down. That was my roommate's name. So this actually happened, and I have tons of stories like that. So much so that now I have developed a little bit of that same seeing eye, that third eye.
Right.
So the womb is where a lot of these your negative emotions, positive emotions, everything is the seat. So malfunction, dysfunction, dis-ease, pain, disorders tend to focus there for a lot of us women. And I say us because I've had my own struggles, which
Mm-hmm.
is what led to the birth of the woman's nest. So I recognize that, all right, there are multiple factors that affect the way our health is. And, you know, because it is such a big part of our lives for all, especially in the United States, it seems like being female is a health condition, right? You go from being, seriously, you go from having a period, and the period is brutal and a struggle. There's a struggle all through that.
Right.
And then you have the premenstrual disorder, so you have PMDD, and then you have the period itself, and then you're just recovering to go right through the period again, and that is for all your reproductive life from approximately 12 years old to about 45, 50. And then you hit 50 and then you go into menopause, and then boy, menopause brings its own stresses. So it's like
Right.
you live your entire life as a health condition. And oh boy, don't get pregnant in between there, because then it's like, oh my God, you have to go to the hospital, it's an emergency. And then don't have fibroids or endometriosis, heavy periods, bleeding, all of that. And I find that women tend to not talk about this. It's not something that you talk about. This is not where you go to your girlfriend and sit down and you're having a little conversation. You go, girl, how was your period this month? But mine was like, it's not everyday conversation. And women suffer in silence because they feel a certain amount of shame and a certain amount of distress. I'll give you a classic example. A friend of mine's daughter, she just came up from Jamaica. She turned 10. And her mother's in Jamaica. She is here with her dad. And she was staying with my friend for a little while. Female.
Right.
So she's staying with her and her husband. Her husband, it happens to be this little young lady's uncle. Happens to be her uncle.
Right.
So they're in the house, and she comes to my friend and she goes, "Oh, I think I need to take a shower in your bathroom." And she said, "Well, okay," because she didn't want to take a shower in the other bathroom that her son uses. She's like, "All right, fine." So she had her go in there, and then she said she gave her a towel and gave her some other stuff, and then she says, "Oh, I think I might need some underwear." And so she says, "Oh, what happened?" "Well, I think I'm having my period." Like, what? Mind you, this little girl didn't tell her mother. She didn't tell her father. She didn't tell her uncle. She told nobody. Why? Because there's this. It's almost an unwritten rule. It's a certain amount of shame that it seems to just come along with a period when it should be something celebrated as a time of a young lady becoming a woman. It's for whatever reason, and I can't quite figure it, but it is just this hush hush thing. And so she didn't want to say anything. She didn't want to tell her mother. She said she felt embarrassed. Like, what do you mean you feel embarrassed? Like, this is something that is natural. It happens to every woman. You should be, excited about this and should be happy to call your mom. No, she was afraid. She felt bad because, so mind you, this is her second period. So she was at her dad's home, had her first period, and so my friend was like, "Well, What were you doing? How did you clean yourself up?" She said, "Well, I just threw them away. I just threw my underwear away and just tried to clean up after myself." What?
Oh, wow.
But this is so this is where it begins. There's a certain amount of shit because, again, periods aren't talked about like regular dinner conversations. Nobody has these discussions out in the open. It's just this private thing. And so you feel like, okay, so children, they don't know. So they feel like this is this private, shameful thing because maybe in their household it's just not spoken about. And very often the things that you don't speak about, children just automatically assume that this is something that should not be spoken about.
Right.
And that follows women all the way through their entire adult life. So we go through these struggles of having, painful periods or just with vaginal dryness, infections, whatever the issue may be. And we don't want to talk about it. And sometimes even with our doctors, it is scary. I'm a chiropractor, right? I don't deal with that kind of stuff on a regular basis, really. That's not what I do. But I find female patients who feel comfortable with me start sharing their issues about their hormones. "Oh my God, this is happening. My period is this. It's so painful. I bleed so heavy. I need help." And so, after going through my own journey with very heavy periods and the struggle. So I'll go into my story in a little bit. This is where the Woman's Nest was birthed. And this is just all about a journey of self-actualization, self-love, recognizing the powerful being that women are. And recognizing how much our power has attempted to be diminished by our male counterparts, and understanding that there's no need to be angry with them because, if you see something that's powerful, your tendency is going to be, okay, if I can't utilize that power for myself, then I'm going to shut it down.
Right.
And so it's an almost automatic self-preservation kind of reaction. So we can't be angry at men for that, but we need to recognize that, listen, we are powerful beings in and of ourselves. All you have to do is just look at the countries that have very low COVID numbers and see what their leaders are, what gender their leaders are, and then you start to figure a whole lot of things out. I just had to throw that in there parenthetically. Yeah,
it's
so
amazing
we're not gonna
how
watch
that adds up.
Amazing how that happens. So we're not gonna go, political or COVID tonight. We're just going to talk about women's health and women's nest and where this came from.
Right.
So, so my journey, a little bit about my story. I started my period when I was 12 years old, like clockwork. It was like I tend to have a clockwork kind of life. So it was clockwork, and the very first year was okay. I was fine. It was a normal period, maybe 3 to 4 days, regular kind of flow, and I was good to go. The second year, it was like all hell broke loose. I had cramps like I would literally pray for death. It is not a joke. I would pray like, please God, kill me because I can't live through this pain. It's too much for me. That is literally my prayer at 13. I was literally praying, please God, take me now because this is not, I can't live like this. And to know that I was going to have a period every month and to see this level of pain, I was like, no, you got to take me. I would have to call my mom to come and get me from school once a month. The first day was brutal. I would bleed crazily, like so heavy, clots, the whole 9 yards. The cramping was it was intractable pain. I could not see straight. My legs would get weak. I would throw up sometimes. It was, I mean, pain like I can't even imagine. And I would think, well, geez, childbirth can't be worse than this. Because at least with childbirth, you're seeing the reason for the pain. Here, I'm just in pain for no damn reason.
Right.
I couldn't, and so I started to develop a little resentment there. So I had a resentment for my womb because I'm like, you're causing me some stress. You're causing me pain. This isn't supposed to be this way. Like, what's going on? So anyway, an entire year now from 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 5 straight years, I would just have to pop some serious painkillers, drink a glass of wine, and go to sleep. Usually, if I went to sleep and woke up, if I was able to just get to sleep, then when I woke up, the pain would have subsided, and then I would be okay for the rest of the cycle.
Okay.
That went on for 5. Yeah, that went on for 5 years, and progressively, the bleeding got heavier and heavier, but it was still manageable. It was like 4, maybe 5 days. Fast forward, I go off to college at 17, and now I'm thinking, okay, I'm responsible for my own health now, and I'm thinking, okay, this period thing is not quite working out again. I'm away at school. I don't have mommy to rub my tummy for me or put a hot water bottle, because there's something about the comfort of having mom with you.
Right.
Mom isn't there. I'm now in a very cold climate, so everything hurts more. So I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I get on birth control. And for a year, I'm on it. And it's like, okay, this isn't so bad. But then I started for a year and then I got off of it because I'm like, okay, this doesn't feel right. I started to not feel well. So I came off of it and I went vegetarian. And for the rest of that year, I did great. Cycle was good, not a lot of bleeding. It was not a lot of cramping. It slowly ebbed down till it went back to the regular 4 or 5 days, regular cycle, no really big hiccups. Every once in a while, one cycle would come that would kind of knock me on my knees and I'd be in pain, but it was a rare thing. So fast forward, I graduate, because mind you, up to this point, I didn't have fibroids yet, which is one of the things I'm going to talk about when it comes to fibroids. Fibroids do cause heavy bleeding and pain, but it is not the only cause, because at 13 years old, I didn't have fibroids.
Right.
But I had very painful periods and they were heavy. They didn't last very long, but they were painful and they were heavy. So that was not the only source of heavy, painful periods. While they do contribute to it, it is not the only source. I don't want people to think, I have fibroids, but I don't have any problems. Yeah, but you can have fibroids and be fine. You can have them and not be fine. You can not have them and be fine. Right? It doesn't really, because there are a couple different factors. So there was some emotional stuff that was going on in my household that, I can't get into at the moment, but I know that was a major part of what was happening with me, why I held things in my womb. And so that was where my body was allowing the expression of that deep pain and hurt. Do you understand?
Right.
So that was how it expressed itself. You had a question? You sounded like you're about to ask me
Well,
something.
I was about to do a few things, and one of them was to say goodbye to Facebook Live. Uh,
Oh, okay.
Deuces, y'all. Come on over
This
to
is bye bye.
kevinstew.com and get the rest of the information and hang out with us for the rest of the remainder of the time. But until tomorrow, when I give you a segment again, deuces. All right. So,
Later for Facebook.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, a couple of people chiming in here in the stew pot. Greetings from Jamaica. Tina Simone
Oh,
says greetings.
hi,
Um, and comment here, I celebrated with my daughters when they got their first period. They thought I was
Tina.
overreacting. And I
Yeah.
explained to them that it was time of celebration becoming a woman. I wish I would
Exactly.
have had that connection with my own mother.
Exactly. Well, I had the
Wow.
connection with my mom. I mean, my mom taught me. And what is funny is my mother and I are extremely close. I speak in present tense like she's still here, but so she is
Well,
in spirit with
yeah,
me.
she is in spirit.
She is in spirit. But my mom and I are extremely close, and she taught me everything. So as soon as my period came, I knew what was going on. I had pads. I was ready to rock. So for her, she said, "Oh, your period came." I said, "Oh yeah," and it was kind of matter of fact, like, "Yeah, like, hello, I know what to do," you know. It was like, you already taught me. I know what to do, so I'm fine. She's
Right.
like, oh, well, congratulations, young lady. So, it was like well, duh. For me, it wasn't a scary, like, oh my God, I'm so shy. And then when I tell you, when that pain hit, I didn't care who knew I was bleeding. Like, hey, please call my mother. I'm cramping. I need my mom. I didn't care.
Right,
Shame
right.
went out the window because of the pain that I was going through when I started having very heavy, very painful periods.
Mm.
So, to go back to where I was there, we don't recognize sometimes that whether you have fibroids or not, or whether you have endometriosis or not, there is a certain your womb is going to give you a representation of what is happening in your body at any given time. It is an indicator. It is like your canary in the mine.
Mm.
Okay, so that is your canary in the mine. So, ladies, we really have to be aware and listen and pay attention because we like the phase of the moon change. This morning we're one. Men think we're psycho. It's not that we're psycho, but
Oh, it's
we're
not?
affected by the phases of the moon. But don't get fresh, okay? Don't get fresh.
Good night,
You're
Bobby.
outnumbered by the ladies.
Bobby says,
You're outnumbered by the ladies
yeah.
tonight.
Well,
Uh-huh.
Bobby just jumped into the stew pot, so I'm glad.
Hi, Bobby.
Bobby says good evening to you too.
Good
Um,
evening, Bobby.
yeah, Bobby. Well, listen, I needed this testosterone to support me
You
tonight,
needed some
boy.
because you got to overrun by the ladies tonight.
But
Yeah,
it's important.
overrun.
It really is important that men are tuning in for this also,
Absolutely,
because
absolutely.
if there's anything that to us is an enigma, it
Hmm.
is women.
Yes, we cannot be understood. So
Right.
we can't. Don't try to understand us. Just work with us and listen when we ask you to do something. Just do it because it's not coming from a place. Especially if you're with a woman who has her head on her body. She's a woman
Right.
who's
Right.
who's pretty solid. It's not like she's trying to hurt you or anything. But we have a line. We have a direct connection to the divine because life comes through our body.
Right.
So when a woman tells you something, listen, a woman can amplify anything that you give her. You give her a sperm, she gives you a baby.
Mm-hmm.
You give her an idea, she'll birth a business. We are about the birthing process and bringing things into fruition. So,
Yes.
we're just really powerful beings, and we need to recognize that and not diminish our light. And the world has a tendency to diminish our light and over sexualize who and what we are when we're really goddesses. We are the ones that bring life into this world. So I want us to recognize that and be aware of this divine feminine that we have in us and just work with it.
Yeah, I can't even
Okay?
argue with that. I'm in full support
No,
of
you
that.
can't. Absolutely.
Full
And so it's
support.
important. So it's important for the men to see this and understand it and respect it and revere it and not think that this is, you have to browbeat a woman down into subjugation. No, you don't. Because as powerful and as wonderful as we are, we have no problem submitting to a man who's in his rightful place as a man and as a leader. No
Mm.
problem.
Yeah.
If you're stepping out there being the man that you need to be, then we are happy to be the support because we're the neck of the head. The head is the man is the head, supposedly, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
man is the head and the woman is the neck. The head can't do anything without the neck, you know.
Not a thing.
The head can do absolutely nothing without the neck. We have to be there to support you to make sure that you're in the position you're in so that then you provide the covering for us to do what we need to do. So it's
Right.
just different energy. It's not about women fighting men to take over men's roles or men fighting women to take over women's roles. It's about everyone understanding their purpose and walking in it. It's as simple as that. And
Mm.
respecting the other one. That's all it is. So I'm not here to be, women's power and women's liberation and beat men down. No, that is not my goal. And I'm not here to support the men beating women down either. It is about us working together to accomplish the goal that we've all been put on this planet to accomplish.
Bobby says I argue with my wife and she gives me weeks of headache.
Bobby, that's just for another show. Okay? That's just
You
for
see,
another show.
that's the tension in the neck. That's what that is. It
That's a
causes it
tension.
causes
See,
headache.
you cause tension in the neck, and then now you have a headache. So it just follows. So
She does not
your job
submit to
now.
anyone.
Well, your job is not. You don't have to force her to submit. Maybe she's just an alpha female, and you need to work with that energy. That's all it is.
Yeah, just
Some
work with
we
it.
all have different energies. Just work with it and not try to fight it. So the fact
Yeah,
that you
I
went
have
to
one of
argue with
those.
her, yeah, the fact that you had to go argue with her makes her now even more defensive, and she's gonna. So that cat's gonna come out and scratch you, and then we're gonna have an antagonistic kind of interaction. That's not what we need. So back to our ladies now and our divine feminine. So you have to recognize, and what is your relationship with your womb? Is it a source of pain? Because again, this is a portal. This is what brings you from eternity into the natural, into time.
Right.
So this is your gateway. So this is why women can really be support in their own right, supportive and give birth to wonderful dreams and new businesses, new ideas, anything, and help their men to do the same thing. And at the same time, understand that you have to protect that energy. All
Right.
right. So, what is your relationship with whom? Is it a source of pain? Is it bad memories? Women who may have been molested as children, those memories stay there. And very often, if they're molested very young, they don't even remember because their body, as a protective mechanism,
Mm-hmm.
the brain will shut that memory down, but it doesn't go anywhere. It's not in your conscious mind, but it's in your unconscious.
Right.
So in the unconscious mind, it stays there and it begins to affect you physically. So children who tend to be abused, young women, young men, whoever, tend to act out sexually. So they're more promiscuous. They're, a little bit out there. And it's not because they want to be, it's because they didn't have time to develop those sexual feelings properly in the proper context, right? So things were woken in them at an age of kind of a little too young,
Mm.
and so they don't recognize, okay, this is an inappropriate reaction, but they take that inappropriate reaction and now it is like, okay, this is my interaction with everybody because that becomes their norm, right? So it's not a judgment. You've got to recognize that sometimes they may have just been molested and they're acting out in this way. So whether or not it was that kind of situation, if they were molested or there was abuse, physical abuse of some kind, or emotional abuse, or they saw their mother abused, or whatever the pain may be, it sits in your womb. Anger, resentment, pain, any negative memory. While the positive ones stay there, the negative ones are the ones that cause us the most grief,
Mm. It's
right?
also said that trauma from surgeries.
Yes, any physical trauma, you will hold that there as well. Whether it is surgery on the womb itself or surgery anywhere in the body where they have to put you under, that's trauma. That's
Yeah.
like somebody slashing you. You're getting cut open. If
Yeah.
somebody was to walk up to you on the street and cut you open, you'd think, okay, you'd put charges on them, right? They'd have to go to jail.
But
A surgical
instead, you go to the
procedure
doctor and
is
you pay them to do it.
and you pay them to do it. Isn't that why? But usually it's for a good cause. It's to help you with something. It's to take out some malfunctioning body part or such. But in a surgical procedure, it's still traumatic because your
Yes.
body goes through the same kinds of fight or flight responses, whether it is a willful surgical procedure or trauma, meaning an injury that happened like a car accident or a fall or somebody got shot or something. All right. So So because your womb holds on to all of those memories, remember now, not just yours, but your mother's and your grandmother's. In fact, your great grandmother's. It is a long line of womb trauma that ends up in you, and you have to work on it. So we all have to work on that trauma together. And so when we do our seminars and workshops with Woman's Nest, this is a lot of what we start off doing. So we've had womb healing ceremonies at the beach. We've done workshops together. We've done online workshops. We've done one-on-one trainings, the whole 9 yards on just how to start working on healing the womb. And it's a process. So I'm going to give you a little tidbit of how we do it, but I wanted to give the preamble and talk about, first of all, how I got here doing this kind of work, and how, I ended up here because of what I had been through with my own life. So just to continue with my little story. So after I went vegetarian for a while, I had some great results. I felt great. I was like, all right, this is great. Maybe I can start eating chicken again. Dun, dun, dun.
Nope.
Big mistake. Big mistake. So started eating chicken. I recognized that for a while, when I went back on birth control, this was like a double dose of hormones. And there's some of us who are very sensitive to hormones.
Yes.
I'm one of those people. So I ended up on birth control and eating chicken, which is, the chicken in this country is juiced up. Every meat except for fish that you catch fresh is injected with hormones, whether growth hormone or some other hormones to fatten them up, right? So I try to get the free range chicken. Before I knew about Delaware Farms and all them places where you could get the free range chicken, I was just buying chicken wherever. Or if you buy it in a restaurant or or in the supermarket, it's not free range, and of course it's pumped up and juiced up.
Right.
So I started eating it, and I was like, oh boy, I gained about 40 pounds. The period was okay, but I recognized that, okay, I don't want to stay on these pills because I'm thinking something's not quite right. I just felt off. I started getting acne. I mean, I was like, something's not right, right? I don't do well with hormones physically. So I decided to got off of them, and it took me a year. My cycle went away after I went off of the birth control for a year.
What?
A whole year. So I decided, all right, so clearly there's still a lot of hormones left in my system. I stopped eating chicken for that year. A year to the date that I stopped eating chicken, boom, cycle came back and came back normal. Came back normal for about 6 months. But by then I'm like, you get lazy. So I went back to eating chicken. Went back to eating, because you feel like, oh yeah, I'm good now. I can do whatever.
Yeah.
So I went right back to eating. I'm telling you just how it works. Went back to eating chicken and everything else. And now the period came back and it got a little bit more intense. Now I'm getting cramps, not as bad, but they're there. The period is getting longer and longer. So it went from 5 days, and 6 days, and 7 days, and 8 days. Then I'm like, okay, I'm going to work. Things are okay. I'm functioning. I'm not having any major issues. I'm functional. And I decided, all right, I'm going to go to chiropractic school. I'm in chiropractic school, and we get to the part where now you're starting to do examinations on each other. They started doing physical examinations on my abdomen, and now we noticed that I have these big growths in my belly. That I could palpate, like you could feel them just from touching my stomach. You're like, what the hell is this? So turns out that the fibroids had now ballooned. The first time that I'd heard of them, that I knew that I had them, was right after I graduated and I'd gone to the doctor because my period was like kind of acting funny.
Right.
At that point, they were like 2 or 3 little ones, and the gynecologist at the time said, "Oh, don't worry about it. They're not going to bother you. If they don't bother you, don't bother them. Leave them alone." Well, by the time I went to school, between the time of that diagnosis and I went to school, they had ballooned. So while I'm in school, I decided, well, maybe I should just do the surgery since I'm here. If I need to be out, I can be out on a break, and at least, I should be okay. Well, somehow it didn't work out that I was going to have the surgery. Like I forgot the logistics of it, just didn't quite work out, and I couldn't do it. And then by then I'm getting to the end of my program. I wanted to come down and do my preceptorship, my internship here in Florida, So I couldn't be up there,
Laid up.
convalescing.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So my goal was to hurry up, get all my requirements done because we have 10 trimesters. I finished all my coursework in 9 so that my 10th trimester I could be out of school and back in Florida doing my preceptorship. So I was working 10 times faster just to be able to get out of there.
Right.
So I get back down here and I'm working and everything's fine so far. But then the period is just getting heavier and heavier, longer. It wasn't too crazy.
You said
I'm not on birth
longer than
control at
8
this point.
days?
Well, it went up to 8, maybe 9 days.
Jeez, boy.
Yeah, so then I come
Sound
back.
like
I'm
punishment.
back. I'm working. Yeah, literally, it really was. And so for months and months and years, this went on. And then my mom got sick, and my focus was just her. So I totally just forgot all that was happening to me. Literally, I put myself on a shelf, and it was just my mom. I didn't care about me at that point. And I went on and on and on and on and on. Then my mom passed. The year after, I was like, well, that year, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go take a trip and get away because I needed a getaway. I hadn't had one for a while. It's like I'm gonna go away, and I traveled, and I was traveling all over the world. And I'll never forget this story. I tell this story all the time, not to scare people, but just to kind of make you understand how sometimes how your period can totally affect your life and how intense how for women this is our life. Like I know women who schedule their lives around their period because they know their period is going to be so aggressive and so painful and they're going to be so miserable that they don't schedule vacations around it and they pray to God, oh my God, please don't let it come while I'm on vacation. Well, the worst happened. I'm on vacation in Egypt no less.
Yeah.
And my period decides to come there. And for the 2 weeks, it did not stop.
See, that's just it. Here's a comment in the stew pot. Two things.
Uh-huh.
When that memory of molestation at an early age comes back in adulthood, it hits like a million tons of bricks. That's
Yes,
one.
that's one.
The other thing is try bleeding for 24 days straight.
Oh, please, I can top that. I did 3 months.
You see, I knew you were going there, but I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
wanted to
yeah,
get
yeah,
that comment out there.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know why
yeah.
you're
It's
rushing the
all
story.
good.
Don't rush the story.
Yeah, I'm not trying to hurt the courage. It's the people that making the comments. I'm telling you, yeah.
You see,
I beat that. I actually, my hematocrit went down to like a 16 or something ridiculous. I had a friend who was a nursing director who was like, Janice, I need to get you admitted. I'm going to do a direct admit and have you get transfused. You're going to pass out somewhere. My gynecologist was like, you have got to do something. You cannot function like this. You're bleeding to death. You're going to bleed to death. You're going to pass out somewhere. They're going to have to take you to the emergency room. They're going to do emergency surgery and botch you up. You have to do something. That's the levels it got to.
yeah. So, Bobby, I think you missed that part about her talking about the birth control because he's asking, could you not use birth control to control the bleeding?
Yeah, that didn't work so well for me. It worked to a point, and
Right.
I had to stop. Yeah, I had to stop it because for me, birth control just is a bit too much of the hormones, and my body reacts in negative ways. So I don't. I tried to stay away, for as much as I could. So I'm in Egypt, bleeding half to death. On the flight back, we're talking like a 12, 13 hour flight.
Mm-hmm.
I made sure to dress in all black.
Yeah.
I made sure I had something to wrap around me. And I literally, and I know this is probably TMI, but I'm just sharing this because, women go through these struggles and are afraid to talk. I'm not afraid to talk. I share it because I know that I'm helping somebody.
That's the purpose of this show. What do you mean?
That's the whole purpose of the show. So I'm in the air, 35,000 feet in the air, bleeding half to death. Okay. And I remember I had an entire pack of pads. I went through the entire pack in those 13 hours. I am now in the air about an hour or two outside of New York City because we're flying directly from Cairo to New York City, to
Mm-hmm.
LaGuardia, to Kennedy. And I had to go. Thankfully, the bathrooms are always stocked, and they did heavy duty gauge napkins. It's the hand towels.
Right.
I had to grab because every time I had to get up and run to the bathroom, I didn't have time to stop a stewardess and ask them did they have pads. I didn't have time. I just had to haul tail, get in there, do what I had to do,
Yeah.
put the paper. You understand? I had to get paper. I was on paper towels for the last 2 hours on pins and needles, getting up every like 20 minutes, to the point when we finally disembarked, I thankfully knew where the terminal was, that they had stores in Kennedy,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to jump. I flew off that plane, and I only had carry-on luggage. I didn't have, thank God, I didn't pack a checked bag.
Right.
I flew off that plane, and I think my friend saw the terror in my face because she was about to ask me something. She's one of the girls who was on the trip, and she was about to ask me something, and I looked at her like, I don't know, and I just shot out of there. Ran through. I had my passport, my mobile passport on my phone, so I ran through one of the short lines. Just had to go through immigration. They just scanned it, and they're like, okay, go. And I ran out of there, jumped on the train to get into the terminal that I knew had stores, and we found a store, the one store in the corner that had packs. They had one pack left.
Wow.
It was waiting for me, apparently.
Yeah.
I ran and grabbed it, and there was a bathroom right next door to the store, and I ran right in there and was able to handle business. And my flight, my connecting flight ended up being delayed, but thankfully I have a friend in New York who came and picked me up. So he came and picked me up and took me to his house. His mom was there, made us dinner, and I was able to shower and get cleaned up and stuff, and I was ready to just wait for my flight, my connecting flight back to Fort Lauderdale. So I know the struggles. Like, can you imagine being on a fantastic vacation like that? And I mean, I still had a fabulous time,
Yeah.
but it put a little damper. You're like, and there were days when we were out on excursions with touring pyramids, and I'm like, excuse me, I'd have to get the guard, and you have to have a security detail with you. So if I had to go to a store, I had to have like an entourage, literally, to go with me, to take me to the store to go buy pads. It was crazy. It was just bleeding and no cramping, but the bleeding would not stop. And so, thankfully, I wasn't doubled over in pain. I'd have a little bit of twinge, a little bit of discomfort sometimes, usually in the morning, and then by the rest of the day I was fine. But, it's a little bit uncomfortable. You're out there in the desert. I mean, there were times when we were way out in no man's land in the Sahara. We're in the Sahara driving from place to place.
At least it wasn't cold.
Oh no, thank God. Thank God. It was nice and warm and toasty. But that was my struggle. And so by the time I got back, I was like, okay, that is actually when I started Woman's Nest. It was that fall when I came back, and I did an event with a friend of mine, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to start this thing because it's just time. So the journey was that I was going to end up having a DNC. My gynecologist said, listen, let's do a DNC at least to try to get the bleeding calmed down for now. And I thought, okay. But something in my spirit just said, maybe not. Don't know why. Because there's no reason why I should not have just gone ahead and done it. But I just didn't feel released to do it. And it turned out that logistic-wise, I couldn't get it done because I was supposed to have a pre-surgical appointment with my gynecologist. He wasn't available the day that I was available, and the procedure was scheduled for the Monday. So they would have had to put it off. And then it was just one thing after the next, and I was like, you know what, it's just probably not supposed to happen. And then Christmas was coming, and I'm like, I can't be hemmed up, in case there's any complication, because I seem to be the woman with the complications when it comes to surgery. Then, it's probably just not going to work out. So I'd had, mind you, this is my second round with the fibroids. I had them taken out in 2007? 2006, because of course by now I'd gotten out of school. They were way too big. They were just really compressing internal organs, and they had to come out. So I had them taken out. I had a myomectomy, abdominal. I ended up staying in the hospital for a whole week, had an infection in my blood, the whole 9 yards. So, it was a little complicated. Thankfully, my mom was here.
Right.
And so, she helped me convalesce. But anyway, so this is 2006, December. Fast forward, this is 2018, and I'm suffering again. They're large again. They've grown back. This is my second round with them, and I'm like, you know what? I don't know if I want to get them cut out this time. I don't know. I vacillate. I'm going, should I cut them? No. Should I? I don't know. So I started doing some internal work, and I had to really sit down and journal. And so when women come to me with this kind of thing, it's a psychological, emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, the whole nine. Like, we tap into every single one of those components when we're dealing with trying to get you to where you should be with these fibroids. Because the first thing you have to do is make peace with your womb. You cannot have an adversarial relationship. I had an adversarial relationship with my womb. I was ticked off with her.
Mm.
We were not friends. We really were not friends. And that happened to be a big part of why she was acting the way she was, because I wasn't happy with her. Can you imagine being upset at a body part? Like,
Yeah,
like I
I'm
don't like
I'm
my
thinking
hand. I'm gonna
about it as
throw
a
my hand to
man
the curb. Yeah,
having the equivalent of that experience, and
yeah.
I got as far as the initial part of the thought. So if it was a word, I got to the th, and
And
that's
then that was it. You just
it.
couldn't go. You couldn't
No.
go any
Mm-mm.
further.
But
Couldn't go
while
any
while in
further.
Egypt, you had a little bit of revelation too, because I remember when you went to Egypt.
Yes. Now that one will spook you. It spooked me. It spooked me for two reasons. One, there was a white ibis that walked into my backyard and was just there before I left for my trip, like
Mm-hmm.
about a week before. Just walking in the backyard, just looking up, and he was just standing there. I think I still have the picture on my phone. He was standing there, just looking up at a tree, just looking up into the tree, just standing there in suspended animation, not moving a muscle, standing there looking up. And I went, okay, I don't know what kind of message this is, but okay. So I get to Egypt, and the very first pyramid that we go into, on the wall in hieroglyphs, is this ibis.
Mm.
The very first pyramid we went into, and I thought to myself, okay, this is interesting, and I just wasn't sure exactly what it meant, but I was like, all right. So we go to Imhotep's memorial. There's a huge um, museum dedicated to him, the sarcophagus, and where they think that his mummy is in residence.
Mm.
In that pyramid, and I know this is probably going to freak everybody out,
Only
but
some of us. Well,
I'm in there. I'm in there looking at the sarcophagus, look in one of these inner rooms, and I literally hear a rumbling voice saying, "Your fibroids will be healed, but you will bleed."
mm.
Okay, audibly, like I kept looking around, like who? Okay, what? And at that point, I hadn't started bleeding it. I hadn't started. I'd gotten there and I was fine. But I took, of course, I took my stuff with me because I'm a girl. Girls have to do that
Right.
because you never know. And so I heard clear as the crystal clear in my ear. And I'm like, am I hallucinating? What is going on? What is this? Which is why I talk about the spiritual component of this issue.
Right.
And I went, okay, and I was really kind of spooked by it. Literally, I walk out of there, and before we leave, I go to the bathroom, and sure enough, voila,
Let it flow.
let it flow. It had begun, so and it did not stop. And I came back, and it continued. This was like it went on for like 3 months. So my doctor's like, "Oh my God, you're gonna play that." That hence the rush to try to do a DNC and such.
Right.
So at that point, so I get back here that the whole furor is happening about, oh my God, you're gonna bleed to death, your hematocrit's low, the whole 9 yards, because I'd gone through this bleeding episode before. And he's like, listen, you gotta do something. You can't continue like this. You can't. My skin started to look ashen. I look pale. Now you know how dark I am. For me to look pale is serious. Okay.
Right.
I started looking pale. And I'm thinking, yeah, this probably isn't good. So finally, I did two things. One, I went back to my gynecologist. I said, all right. He said, listen, if you're not going to do the DNC, get on this pill now to at least calm the bleeding down until we can figure out what you're going to do. Because mind you, I was getting married in January.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I can't be at my wedding, we just not going to work out. So I said, hold on, let me take myself off this Bluetooth because I think I might lose you. So I took myself so he said he prescribed hormones, some birth control, just to kind of stop the bleeding in the interim until I did the DNC, because we had to use the logistics of not being able to get that done. And so, okay,
I'm taking it. I took it for the first month. It didn't make much of a difference in terms of the heaviness of the bleeding. It calmed it down. It made the days shorter, but the heaviness was still there. And I was like, okay, this isn't quite working. So I got on top of my natural stuff. So I started rubbing myself up with wild yam, progesterone.
Mm.
So I started doing that, and it started to slowly calm down. So between, and then I went to another gynecologist who I know they were doing some clinical trials on some other drugs. And I said, well, let me just go and get a second opinion. And he says, well, let's put you on a different kind of hormone, different kind of, this one is just progesterone only, because I told him I was already using the wild yams. He's like, well, all right, let's try this and then come back to me. We're probably going to see, if you're going to be a candidate for or trial. I'm thinking, I don't want to be on no trial. I don't want no, I'm no guinea pig. You're not going to try to mess with me. So I end up on the progesterone tablets, birth control, progesterone only, and the progesterone cream. And mind you, at that point, I now started regularly doing my steaming, vaginal steaming. And I went back to it because I was wearing my yoni eggs before, but I went back to a regular cycle with wearing the yoni eggs just to help tone the muscles of the uterus and get you nice and good.
Mm.
Well, between that regimen, the entire regimen got me to the point where now my cycles maybe a day or two,
Mm?
a day or two, no pain, no cramping, and because of course there are a lot of other herbal remedies that I've been using as well, in addition to the steaming, in addition to the um the eggs, in addition to the castor oil packs. I'm doing the castor oil packs as well. So Woman's Nest really is about getting you from the harrowing hell that I went through
Right.
with with all the different components, the spiritual component, because again, whoever you deem your creator to be, or God, or the supreme being, or the universe, or divine intelligence, whoever you ascribe your being here to, you've got to make that connection.
Right.
You have to have the connection with the divine to be able to hear, first of all, what it is that you need to do for getting your womb healed.
Bobby
That's
is
critical.
saying steaming.
Yes, vaginal steaming.
Uh,
And there's
yeah.
lingam steaming too. You can actually steam the penis, not so much the testes, but you steam that area as well for men. And there's, I'll get into that in a little bit later. Because Women's Nest, we don't just, we don't discriminate. We're specifically for women, but we take care of the men too, because we've got to take care of you guys.
Yes.
I guess it's just what we have to do. But
Yeah.
so a lot of the protocol that I went through, and I
I'm not
did
doing
for
an egg,
myself.
just to let you know.
Well, I would hope you're not going to do it. I would I would really hope. I don't know where you'd put it, and I don't want to know. I really don't want to know. But that isn't the thing for you.
Right.
So that's for the girls. But it's a whole protocol that really we delve into the spiritual aspect of why your womb is acting the way it is, the emotional aspect of why, the social aspect. What are you eating nutritionally? What is your movement like? What is your sex life like? Are you in a happy relationship? All of these things are components that if you don't deal with it logically, head on, you're going to internalize it. And where do you internalize it, ladies? In your womb.
In the womb.
And so
Mm-hmm.
it will malfunction, and you will give birth to negative emotions. You will give birth to malfunction, to a horrible cycle. You all kinds of stuff. All right. So that has to be dealt with. It really has to. So one of the things that we do in our retreats is a cleansing ritual.
Right.
So you literally, and it starts with you having to sit and write in a journal, where you sit and go back in your mind to the youngest time that you can remember of yourself, and try to figure out what it is. What was that first trigger? Who shamed me? Who hurt me? Who caused me to feel unloved or unwanted? Where did it come from? That first negative emotion, that first feeling of, I need to hide myself because something happened, or I need to, shrink because someone called me ugly, or someone said I was fat, or whatever it is. Find that trigger, that first trigger, if you can remember it. And it can be a very painful experience. I mean, people bawl, like cry, like boohoo,
Mm-hmm.
because it's very cathartic to go back and pinpoint it and deal with it on spot. Really cathartic. So you have to recognize it first, identify it. You cannot ever conquer what you do not confront. So you have to confront whatever that emotional trigger is or was, whether it's still happening or it happened way back in the past. Write it down, document it, face it, deal with it, feel the emotions that it elicits in you, and then now pivot into making that something positive, right? Deal with it. So write it all down. So write all those negative feelings down, whatever you feel badly about yourself, write it down. And we do a whole full-on ritual at the beach. We've done them at home. We've done them in backyards. We've done them online.
I've been to
The whole
one that
protocol.
y'all did.
Yeah, you went to what ride? You went to a womb healing ceremony at the beach, and it was in Pompano.
Yes.
So yeah, so that, I mean, critical, like it's a full on process, and you'd be surprised how cathartic it is for women to just let that stuff go. And I mean, I get the testimonials all the time about, oh my God, that was so cool. I did that, and I was able to go home and I picked up the phone and I called this relative and I cussed them out and I and I
Yeah.
told them what they did that upset me and that hurt me. And I was never able to do that before. I was never able to let that go. And I let it out. I got it out, and they apologized, and we're okay now. Like, these things happen. So you'd be surprised how they affect you on a physical level, your
Right.
emotions and the experiences that you go through. And again, or it's like, or womb is like our Akashic record. It is like our book of life. So every emotion, everything we experience, good, bad, or indifferent, is written there. And it affects us in one way or another in our lives.
You see, Bobby, that's
What's
why
up?
you get in trouble with your wife.
What is
Malfunction
it?
womb. Womb he he goes womb healing seminar.
Yeah,
Malfunction womb.
yes.
Yes, Bobby.
This is why this is
That's why you get headache.
exactly. This is why he gets headaches, because he doesn't understand. So
Yeah.
woman's nest is all about that. So I know he mentioned something about the steaming. That's a part of the protocol. So
Mm-hmm.
we do that, what we call yoni steaming. So we've created some proprietary blends of herbs that we use that are very healing and toning for the lady parts, and for the womb, for the cervix, for the vagina, all of that. We have yoni eggs, which are little crystal eggs. They're GIA certified gems that are in the shape of an egg that you insert into the vagina.
Mm-hmm.
You can also with the ones that I have with Woman's Nest are all drilled, so you can tie a piece of string in case you feel like it may get lost, although it won't get
It
lost.
won't get lost.
It won't get lost, but you
You
insert
know.
it. But for women to feel comfortable, because you want to have a certain level of comfort when you're using it.
Yeah.
So, I make sure that those are the only ones I sell, because those are the ones that people tend to feel a little bit more comfortable with. They're not too large, they're like a little intermediate size. You can insert them and just hold. And I hear lots of very interesting stories from women who use them and feel like, wow, like there was a young lady just about a month or two ago who bought one,
Mm-hmm.
and she used it on the weekend with, I guess she just started using it. I explained to her, I asked her, well, what kind of crystal would you need? I had her look at them, because I usually have people look at them and decide which one speaks to them, because every crystal represents a different thing.
Right. A
And
different
so they look at
flow
them
of
and look
energy.
at different
Yeah.
kind of energy. So, whatever speaks to you, I don't ever say, okay, this is the one you should have. I always like for women to look at them and say, okay, that one. And I'm like, well, that's the one that you need. And so they use it. And so she chose rose quartz, which is usually for love and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And she got the rose quartz crystal. And the 2 weeks after that, I heard she got married to her boo thing. I met
What?
her at her booth thing. Yeah, they were working together. They do catering, and they they were at an event, and they got engaged shortly after she used the egg for the first couple times. So yeah,
Mm.
I'm not saying that you're gonna get a husband when you use them, but um, after I started using them, I got married shortly after that too. So there are lots of great benefits. There are lots of great benefits to these yoni eggs. And people ask me, what do you do? Well, I'm telling you, first of all, it tones the muscles of the pelvic floor. So the muscles, these are the same muscles that go in, well, the pelvic floor and also the uterine muscles. Those muscles also will go into spasm when you're having cramps.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a way tone the muscles of the area, get them nice and strong. And for some reason, it seems to help patients with cramping.
Mm.
How the mechanism works, I don't know. I just know that it strengthens the pelvic floor, and it's very helpful for women who also have urinary incontinence.
Okay.
So those are the entire that whole system gets fully supported as you learn to hold on to those eggs, and as you graduate in your egg usage, you start learning to turn it, pull it up, pull it down. All kinds of fun, interesting things that you can do with that. You just gain better muscle control in that area. All right.
And so that you know,
Um,
Bobby, she's saying that you're doing this. They're doing this internally with the eggs. He also Bobby says my wife is in IVF, and you all should probably talk.
Yeah, yeah, she can certainly, absolutely, she needs me because there are some women who literally, especially if they're trying to conceive and have, issues sexually, because you know what, a lot of women go through trauma for all kinds of trauma, not just abuse, but feel a certain amount of shame when it comes to the lady parts. It's just this
Yeah.
I don't know, just don't want to talk about it, especially those of us from the islands. It is like, oh my God, like no man's land. You just can't talk about it. And we're having all the sex in the world, but but nobody wants to talk about the nitty gritty. And
Right.
when
Right.
there is dysfunction in this area, how do you work on it? How do you get better? How do you, if you're afraid, maybe your partner doesn't get into too much um, foreplay, maybe you're not wet enough, like what's happening. And so there's a lot of psychosis sometimes associated with the sexual act itself.
Yeah.
And so the eggs help you get there. So they help you, for one, help you develop your own natural lubrication without having to use artificial stuff because it's going in there. So it starts to expand the tissue. And naturally, when when the vaginal tissue expands, the thinking is, okay, something's in here, let's get lubed up. And so you'll naturally start to secrete a little bit of moisture there
Mm-hmm.
just to help you have the egg in the vagina.
Right.
So there are a lot of different things that it does to help. I mean, some women, use it for masturbation purposes. I don't, if that's what you want to do, it's entirely up to you. You're grown,
Right.
but you can. And so they use them for multiple purposes, but it does so many different things to develop a certain level of confidence and a certain sexual energy that just makes them feel like, yeah,
Right.
that goddess energy, like, yeah, I can do this. And if they're trying to conceive, that feeling of relaxation and comfort with your lady parts makes it more receptive for you to conceive.
Bobby is saying that most times his wife treats patients with drugs and so on, but there may be other facts to consider.
Exactly. And again, if the psycho emotional components, if those are not addressed, you can drug somebody to death. It may never work,
Right.
right?
You
Because
know,
there's so many other issues that are not dealt with in the whole process.
it's funny that you said that. I
Hmm.
don't even remember who it was that I was talking to, and they were saying that there have been people who, before getting therapy, would have various medical conditions, physical
Hmm.
conditions, and
Hmm.
they would go and get therapy,
Hmm.
talk to a
And
therapist for a month, 3 months, whatever period of time, and
mhm.
that medical condition goes away.
Okay, I'm telling you. People wonder, you ever wonder why you're stressed out and your blood pressure goes up?
Right.
And then you find a way to calm down for a day. You watch a comedy, you're laughing, you're, having fun with family. You have a nice meal, even if it's a high sodium meal, you have a nice meal with family, and then you take
Your
your
blood
blood pressure
pressure
and
and
it's
it goes
down,
down. Yeah.
and it goes down. Let me tell you, your emotions are a critical part of your overall health. And thoughts do become things. And whether you think it or not, whether you recognize it or not, those thoughts, whether positive or negative, you're creating energy in your body, and it is going to manifest itself somewhere. It does not go nowhere, and it does not become nothing. It becomes a thing. So it manifests in
Right.
your body as either a cold, a headache, your blood pressure goes up, your sinuses get congested, your back starts to hurt, your period is heavy, and you've got, 59 fibroids growing and clots in the whole 9 yards. These are all manifestations very often. Not saying that there is, because remember, all of these different parts are components. So there is a physiological component. Obviously, you're growing something in your uterus that shouldn't be there, but there are also emotional components and contributors and social components and contributors, nutritional components and contributors. I mean, there's so much. So the herbal steams are also wonderful for helping to tone the area. The castor oil packs are wonderful. Castor oil in and of itself is great to be taken internally or externally.
Mm-hmm.
For one, it flushes the lymphatics, and your lymphatics, are the one, are like the drainage, the immune drainage system of your body. And if the lymphatics are clouded and full of crap, then that's the extent to which you can be healthy. Your lymphatics have to be able to drain properly so that those immune cells are able to travel around and be able to attack disease and destroy it if their pathogens are present in the body, in the bloodstream. So
Right.
the thing with castor oil is that it also is wonderful for cysts. Some women with fibroids will also develop ovarian cysts. Those come every month. You get a cyst every month when the follicle is going to be popping out. That's what, just in case you're going to get pregnant. When the follicle is released from the ovary, every month there's a little cyst, and then it pops out. The follicle travels down the oviduct, fallopian tube, and then that cyst usually will disappear, will resolve. So at different times during the cycle, you may have a cyst pop up or it may go away. Some women get cysts that just pop up and don't go away, and they cause a lot of pain.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they don't know that that's the situation. Unless you get an ultrasound at the point of time that you're feeling the intense pain, you may attribute it to your fibroids, you may attribute it to endometriosis, you may attribute it to, I don't know, bad gas or something. But really, a lot of times it's that transient follicle that may just sit there. It may grow and just sit there for an extended period of time before it resolves. Those also are assisted, for whatever reason, by the lymphatics. So as the better your drainage system works, the less potential you're going to have for developing these cysts. And if you do get them, it's going to help you resolve them, because if the fluid doesn't just disappear, it gets reabsorbed and goes into your lymphatics to be excreted from the body.
Gotcha.
Okay, or back into the bloodstream. The fluid, your body is very conservative, so it's not going to just get rid of stuff. It's going to recycle it and find a way to put it to better use somewhere. So, to the extent that your lymphatics are able to drain properly, is the extent to which you're going to be able to resolve those cysts better and have your body function better and have that entire reproductive system just pop in. so,
Yep.
so the castor oil packs are significant for rubbing on the tummy. They will also assist. They're not going to shrink fibroids that are 5 centimeters large, obviously. That's not going to happen. But a small cyst, small fibroids, used by regular usage, they work.
And that's just rubbing it on to the abdomen area, the lower abdomen.
Yeah, there's a whole protocol with it. You warm it, you put it on a flannel cloth, cover it. You got to cover it with plastic to keep the heat there, put a hot pack on it, the whole protocol. And there's
It,
a certain amount of time that you have to do it, and it's a prescribed amount of sessions that you need to do. And then usually I recommend ultrasounds, because ultrasounds are non-invasive and there's no radiation.
mm-hmm.
Do an ultrasound prior to starting the treatment, of any kind. Give it 3 to 6 months, and then get ultrasounded again. Sometimes before that time, women start to resolve symptoms because, of course, they're eating better,
Right.
they're exercising, they're doing the full protocol and getting better. So before they even go to get an ultrasound, they know, oh yeah, I feel better.
So could that be like a couples thing?
Absolutely, the husband can, or guy can, or the partner can absolutely get the do the protocol with the castor oil,
Mm-hmm.
warm it, soak the cloth, cover it, wrap them up, put the hot pack, sit there with them, soothe them, sing nice music, play nice music, light a candle, draw a bath. You can
Right.
make
Right.
it fun, when even though it is therapy.
Yeah.
You can make it a fun couples thing. Even the steaming process. I tend to steam. Usually when I'm steaming, I'm by myself and I'm journaling. But my husband knows.
Mm.
He steps in the house and smells that all that incense and the herbs, because I use lavender and rose petals and all this fancy stuff. And he's like, oh yeah, it smells good in here. Oh baby, and he knows. Oh yeah, she's getting all goddess stuff. It's about to be on and popping. About to
Yeah,
be
he's
on
gonna
and
benefit
popping
from
up in
this.
here. Oh yeah, he's gonna absolutely benefit. So he loves that. But you can make it a whole process. You can both do it. Men can steam too. So it depends on what they're going through. And again, the herbs are specific for whatever you're dealing with at the time. So the castor, so it's again a full protocol. There's a psychological part, the social, the spiritual. the nutritional, and then obviously, of course, the protocol of using these different substances. And one of the herbal teas that I also recommend is moringa.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not, moringa is a powerful, powerful healing adaptogen plant. So not only does it help to balance hormones, because of course hormonal imbalances will create some of these issues with the lady parts and men parts too.
Right.
So it does that. It also is great for circulation. It's good for edema. It is good for people with diabetes. In fact, if you're on any kind of diabetic medication and you're drinking moringa tea, the recommendation is that you check your blood sugar regularly every day, because it can help bring that blood sugar down so low that if you're taking the medication and doing the moringa, it'll drop it to the point where you can go into into diabetic shock.
Diabetic. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
you
you're
go
just
into
gonna
diabetic
pass
coma
out.
because
That's
it
it.
goes too low. Yes, so you have to be careful with that. It also is really good for the blood pressure, and for balancing hormones and for swelling, for removing fluid. Again, that lymphatic flow. So it's a whole protocol. So on Women's Nest, womensnest.com is really where the classes are available for womb healing. There's a real one-on-one training that is heavy duty. That one's hardcore.
Mm.
That's a hardcore, like 3 to 6 month protocol class. Really, you have access to the class forever, but
Which
that is heavy duty.
which leads us to one of the questions that was asked. Would you recommend a womb healing ceremony more than once?
Oh, absolutely. Because you have to remember now, these memories are in your body and have been there for as long as you've known yourself, from it occurred until now. Every process requires time. So just like the damage that was done took time, the healing is also going to take time. It is not instantaneous. So this is something you have to work on constantly. So I journal all the time. Whenever I steam, I sit with my journal and I write. What is it that hurts me that day? What is it that aggravates me that day? What were the great things that happened? And I don't just make it a negative thing. It's
Mm.
not just negative, it's also positive. What are the good things that happen? Because remember, you're birthing something, not necessarily a child, but you're birthing a new business idea. You're birthing ways to cope with your family. You're birthing ways to deal with the crazy children. You're birthing ways to just be innovative, especially now in post-COVID, the post-COVID world, where life is different for everybody.
Right.
Now is the time to be innovative in the ways that you earn a living or the ways that you have to navigate your life. Now you're at home all the time. How are you going to do that? How is that? What is that going to? What's your life going to look like now that the children are going to be home from school? Like, you know, all these different things that are always that are thrown at you every day, and your ability to pivot and to function and to adapt is going to be the key to your survival.
Right. Right.
So you have to keep on the cutting edge of, okay, how am I going to do this? All of this is a birthing process. It's the same thing. It's just not a baby, but it's a new way of life that you're having to birth. So all of that, again, the drive and the force for that comes from your womb as a
Mm.
woman. So
Yeah.
healing that is important. So constantly keeping that portal clear is important. Journal as much as you need to. You need to steam as much as you need to. During the time that I steam is when I tend to journal and write a lot of things out and about the ideas. So doing that whole protocol, I'm telling you, is what has really saved me. And so it was just too good to keep to myself. I had to pass it on. And
Right.
this is not anything new. These are ancient therapies that have been used for millennia by women to get themselves well and to keep their reproductive system functioning optimally. This is not anything. I didn't discover this stuff. This is new. I've just started to adapt it for myself and for my friends and for people who feel like this is something that they need. But it is not new at all. And so going through the process, it's a process. And again, just like somebody said a little bit earlier, if there was molestation or any kind of abuse like that, that hits like a brick for a long
Mm.
time. That's a kind of wounding that is I can't begin to describe. Can't begin to describe it. And it's really damaging to the psyche, the heart, the soul of an individual. And so that kind of healing will take time. And so women who have gone through that, who have dealt with, usually their trajectory is a little bit slower. They've got to go a little bit slower just because that getting over that, even facing it to be able to speak it very often is
Right.
something that they have a hard time with.
Yeah.
Very hard time. And you cannot conquer what you don't confront, to the extent that they will, let it out. It took me, I have one client who literally, it took a year and a half of working with her, and she was getting a little bit of breakthrough, not so much, a little bit of breakthrough, not so much. I'm saying, okay, there's something you're not telling me. There's something that you're not telling me, and you're not being true to yourself. I didn't say you're lying to me, but you're withholding something. And this withholding is what's going to stifle you. She was also trying to get pregnant, and, she was having just major issues. And I'm like, there's something you're holding back on. And the minute you release that is the minute you're going to get your healing. It took her a little while, but eventually she broke down and did tell me what was happening, what
Right.
had happened to her. And it
Mm-hmm.
happened for about, like, for several years, started when she was like 5 or 6 and went on until she was like 16.
Mm.
And it went on, yeah, it went on for a while, and she never ever, she said a part of her really forgot about it.
Right.
You know, it was affecting her so much because, of course, your body naturally, you shut down painful experiences because you don't want to have to think about it or face it. But once she faced it and went through it, I mean, it took us about a month or two. Like, I said, well, you might need some additional therapy. I'm not a therapist. So, I'm not a certified therapist. I can't do that part of the work, but I can at least help you get here. And then you can go on to do
Right.
the work that you need to do. So she got there. She got a therapist. She worked with a therapist for about 3 to 6 months, and then bam, a month later, she was pregnant.
Look at that.
Yeah, it literally took that time. It took her breaking through, and she had been to therapy before, and she had never ever discussed with a therapist that she was molested as a child. Had never. And I'm like, I don't know how you don't tell a therapist
Isn't
that.
that the reason for going to a
That's
therapist?
the whole point. But I think she was in such denial. She's
Right.
in such denial about it that she didn't even feel released to say it then, or she didn't remember. I don't know, but she never brought
Right.
it up
Right.
with a
Right.
therapist before. It wasn't until she brought it out with me and then was able to go to a therapist and work on it a little bit more and do some heavy duty work on that she actually got some release.
You're being asked for your contact information.
Okay, you can reach me at womansnest.com, and that's a different womansnest at gmail.com. WOM B as in boy, MANS. So woman's nest, NEST at gmail.com. The site for the classes is womansnest.com. For
Mm-hmm.
the classes and there are probably a couple free classes on there too. If not, I'll make sure to update that. For the products, it is woman's nest dot myshopify.com.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay.
that one's kind of long.
But there are links from the site, Woman's Nest.
Yes, when you go, and I'm on Instagram. Go to my Instagram page, Woman's Nest, and on there the links are there for both the store and the class and the classroom and the online. So there's an online store and an online school. The school has free classes, paid classes, the whole 9 yards, and then the products you can also purchase. And if you just Google it, if you Google Woman's Nest with that spelling, WOMBMANS Nest, NEST, if you Google it, then it will bring up the subsequent pages that you need, whether the store for products or for classes.
And there it is.
And hit
I
me
love
on
my stew
Instagram. Hit me
potters.
on Mrs.
I just love the
What are the
potters.
two Potters? What are
They,
the
they,
Potters?
they put your website in there. They put your email in there, womansnest at gmail.com.
Oh, wow.
The only
Oh,
thing they
thank
didn't
you
put in there
guys.
was the Instagram link and the telephone number. Oh, there we
Oh
go.
my God.
Instagram
Ah,
Woman's Nest. I spoke too soon.
you spoke too soon. It's quick on the trigger. And only, I would have been able to log in and Tyler, but I had to, I have to be in my reclined position because of my back today.
Right.
Thank you, Thea, for making me feel so limber that I got a little, exuberant and jumped around a little bit too much, was twerking a little too much, and hurt myself. So
Had a twerking
I,
accident.
I had a little twerking accident, and I mean, I was going for it. I was lifting weights. I was squatting. I was doing plyo. I was in it.
Mm,
I was in it to it because I felt so good. She just really worked me out
listen,
on Sunday, so I felt fantastic, and then I got a little happy.
last Thursday, I got a
Hmm.
massage, and I took I had a picture. Had to take a picture before. she got started because there was no after picture being taken.
Because you were knocked out, drooling, tongue hanging
Done.
out.
Out.
Done.
Cold.
Let me tell you, she does have some healing hands. I gotta give her that. That's her
Yes.
fault. So normally I would have been up on my computer, logged in and typing all my links up, but I can't do it today. So
Right.
I have to just I have to listen to the body and relax, let the muscles kind of calm down so I can go to my chiropractor in the morning and get my adjustment.
And
So
and and for those of you who don't know, this particular show, Healthy Love,
mhm.
started with Dr. J-Love. It started with Dr.
Sure,
Janice Stone 10 years ago.
surely did. It's 10 years already, Bobby?
10
I love
years
it.
ago.
Thinking, geez, okay, that's a long time. Don't tell anybody. Shh.
And it started on Flex FM.
Yes, I remember Flex FM in the and I was live in the
And
studio
you
at
were
that time.
live in the studio, yes.
Live in the studio at that time. Look at the time.
Yep.
Wow.
And I took a 1 year break, went to Chicago, and
Yep.
I got back, and boom, you were there again.
Picked right up.
And we did it. And it doesn't really matter how long you take a break, Healthy Love is
Healthy love
always
is
your baby.
healthy
I just
love
hold
is
it down for you.
always. See, I gotta love you for that. Gotta love you for that.
You
But
gotta
yeah,
love
so
me
the
for
woman's
something.
gotta love you for something. You know, we can't just beat you up all the time.
Nah.
But this woman's healing is really critical. I feel like, there's a movement towards women getting healing in this time,
It is
with the
necessary,
Me
yes.
Too movement and all these other movements that are just supportive of women and women just being, claiming their place, their rightful place in society. I think it's critical and pivotal to happen now. And as women, once we step into those positions, we don't want to fall into the same boat as our male counterparts have. So we want to make sure we're whole and healed and well so
Right.
that when we step into positions of leadership, we are coming from a place of love and of balance, of understanding, of compassion, all of those things that are just so germane to being female,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But sometimes because we've been browbeaten or because we've had negative experiences, we develop a callousness that, we have to just to be able to survive, and that tenderness of us sometimes gets ebbed away just because of that. So we want to bring the strength and show that yes, we are strong, yes, we're vulnerable, yes, we have all of those beautiful delicate things about us, but we are powerful. We bring life into this world.
Yep.
And so, that power has to be recognized and harnessed and used for good and continue to use for good. And again, we have to be coming from a place of healing and wholeness. And it starts with our womb. And it starts from, just thinking of that little 10-year-old girl who's afraid to tell her mother that her period started. How does that, can you imagine now? Because my alarm bells went off instantly with that little girl, because I'm thinking, okay, this is one that you have to watch like a hawk. Because if she gets molested or somebody touches her the wrong way,
Nobody's gonna know.
nobody's going to know.
And
So, but you
until
see
she
these little
goes
signs.
off.
Exactly. You see these little signs. And so your parents have to be so alert. Like, watch your children. They have their own personality. They're not going to be just like you.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have some of your traits, yes. But you have to watch it. I said, you got to watch this little girl because she's very quiet. She's private. She doesn't want to talk about anything. So you're going to have to now kind of pull information out of her. First of all, make sure that she trusts you
Yeah.
to do it. So make sure that that is there and you don't disclose her secrets to anybody, or, it's her period and oh my gosh, you got to keep that confidential.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to really watch her, because if something happens out there negatively with her, with a male interaction, she's never going to speak of it.
Right.
So, all of that, and then think of how that's going to make her, you know, into a bruised, wounded
But
woman who will lash out and do crazy stuff
that
anyway.
though is so common
It
in our
is.
community. It
It
coming out of the
is. It
Caribbean,
is. Oh
uh,
my goodness.
the coming out of the UK, they tend to be
Mm-hmm.
conservative like that also.
Mm-hmm.
You find it happening so often,
Exactly. And
and
it's something that is
even
so
here in the US, when they talk about it, they talk about it in such a way that it's
it's taboo. Nobody wants
yeah,
to really
it's hush
get it
hush and
out.
all that. And
So hush hush. And our culture is very hush hush as island people too. I mean,
yeah,
even in my own family, like, people don't talk about nothing. Just nothing, nothing. My mother was not like that with me, thank God. My mother told me about the birds and the bees from very early on. We were very close, so I knew what was up.
Right.
There was no distraction there, no misinformation happening
Yeah,
there.
I
In
had
fact, I
no
still
choice
do
but to
too.
have the conversation with my sons
Oh yeah.
because my now 14-year-old, when he was about 6 or 8, saying that he can't wait to grow up and have a girlfriend and then have sex, and I was like, well,
Oh no, he
hold
didn't.
up.
He was how old?
So like 8 or something like that.
Oh boy.
And, well, this is, and so we kind of had to have a little talk.
Conversation.
What is
Yeah.
sex?
Uh-huh.
When does that happen? And we had to have a little talk, and to think that I didn't think that I'd have to have the thought that early, but these are
Never.
intelligent beings.
Exactly.
His brother at 6, round about 6, asked the question. All right, so how many minutes in a dollar? Which to the average person doesn't make sense, but he was told time is money.
Oh my gosh.
So
Look at
his logical question is,
this logic
okay,
about how many
how
minutes in a
many
dollar.
minutes in a dollar?
You know what? Those are your boys. That's all I can say.
And it makes
Those
sense.
are your boys. It makes perfect sense once you say it like that.
Yeah,
Makes perfect sense. So yeah, you have to have the conversations early and
right,
make sure that these children recognize it. There's nothing shameful about your vagina. There's nothing shameful about your penis. There's
right,
nothing shameful about sex, but you need to understand the context and the timing and make sure you're ready and prepared for it because with sex comes responsibility.
right,
It comes possibility of infection or bringing another life into the world,
right, right,
all these things. So you need to be ready to handle that should that be a consequence. So you start, as long as we have those conversations and make sure that they recognize it is not scary, it's not dirty, it's a beautiful thing to be experienced. And so you have to start fostering and loving on yourself because a lot of this is just about self love.
right, right.
Really is. And so, that is what I try to promote as much of with Woman's Nest as I can because, we need it. We have some bruised women out there, hurting women out there who just feel like they have no outlet and no one to talk to and nowhere to go and nobody's hearing them. Their doctors aren't listening to them because unfortunately some of them have male physicians who just feel like everything, women you're just psycho anyway. Here's some
Which is
antidepressants
why
and
it is important that men too get connected with Woman's Nest. Which I
absolutely.
really believe that is important for that reason, if
It's
nothing
so
else.
important. It's so important. If you go to the page, you'll see that it talks about, this is a safe place for men and for women and the men who love them
Yeah,
to get into and just learn about empowering yourself, learning it. There's so many different things that we offer in those classes. You got like personal finance classes, you've got stress management classes, how to find your purpose. Of course, womb healing is a big part of it. Womb healing is one of those classes but again, that's a heavy duty training session. But yeah, the classes are there available, and I think I probably offered a couple coupons out there. I'm not sure. I've got to go back online and check, but I'm gonna check maybe tomorrow. I can't get up right now. I've got to.
yeah. You don't have to worry about it tonight.
Yes,
Watch for those emails though. Watch for those emails. Watch for
oh
those
yeah, women.
connections
I
coming
do check
because
absolutely,
they're gonna
absolutely
come.
because they're gonna come. They've been coming, and literally, I don't know how. Because I'm not actively treating patients physically at the moment, and I don't know how I was doing that and doing Woman's Nest and doing all of the other things that I do because I literally I don't have time.
Are the
Literally,
hands, but you manage to
makes
work. You
me.
make it work.
I make
Um,
it work. I make it work.
Another comment in the stew pot. I made it clear with my daughters what inappropriate touch was. If they felt uncomfortable about anything, come to mommy. And I'm so proud of how
Exactly.
my daughters are becoming young women today.
Yes. Yes. That just keep those lines of communication open. It's
Yeah,
so important. And just make them aware that, listen, something happens, you come and tell me. If anything feels that's critical, if they feel uncomfortable about anything, come and tell you because that is a big part of how the psychosis and the damage happens. They feel uncomfortable about something, they don't talk, they lock it up, and where does it go? It doesn't go nowhere, it goes somewhere, and it goes into their like what I like to call the akashic records of their psyche and their spirit is the womb. for us women, and they just hold it there,
Yeah.
and develop resentment towards even their own femininity. It's crazy. There's so many, I'm not a therapist, obviously, but there's so many issues that arise from, you know, dysfunction that happened associated with the womb. Any kind of
Hmm.
sexual trauma or abuse or pain or discomfort or anything, so much of it, is stored there,
Yeah.
on a spiritual, a metaphysical level, on a physical level, a psychological level, all the levels, it all gets stored there. So it's critical to keep that area clear, keep it healed. I still have fibroids. Am I going to cut them out? I don't know. At this point, I don't know. I've done a couple of things nutritionally, and with the teas and such that are working for me right now. And I mean, if I can avoid having surgeries, you don't want to have them cutting on you
Yeah.
too much. I really would like to avoid that. And I figured I'm closer to menopause now than I was when I was 18.
Yeah,
So
that too.
I figure, hey, once menopause hits, I don't have to worry about it. When I tell you, I was telling Thea, I said, listen, I'm praying for menopause. I don't know about anybody else. I don't know about any other woman, but looky here. I cannot
Bring it
wait for the
on.
day.
Uh,
Bring it on.
And
I am looking forward.
just for you, it'll probably come late.
Exactly. How you know
knowing,
so? I'm gonna be one of them women.
knowing your luck.
Knowing my luck, I've been 65 to talk about child. I got body's past. What? Why are you still having this child? I don't know. It just won't go away. So
Someone
that'd
says,
be me.
such a good discussion. I never connected that my emotions, feelings contributed to my fibroids. It makes
Mm-hmm.
total sense now. I had severe bleeding in which I wore adult pull-ups. I had a
Mm-hmm.
myectomy, and my breathing was no longer labored, and my menses is now normal.
See? Hmm. I'm telling you, these things they make your life, they can literally, when women have to schedule their lives around their periods, it is a life changing, life altering thing to have your life disrupted
Mm,
by this. And again, you develop this almost resentment
right.
towards it. Like, I can't do this because girl, I'm gonna have my period. I can't travel this time. I can't do this. And it becomes really uncomfortable. And so when you get some release and freedom from that, it's like, what? I don't know what to do with myself. Like, go on vacation. I can travel. I can go play sports. I can wear white
Mm,
without fear of embarrassment. It's something crazy. I mean, and we women suffer in silence, and it's time to just let it go.
yeah.
All of that in is no good for us, and we need to start. It needs to be, men have no problem. Well, men don't talk about erectile dysfunction, but if you see how many commercials are on TV for erectile dysfunction,
Yep.
they are happy to tell you, look, you don't have to, not have your penis not work. Let's shoot you up with this drug, take this pill, so you can, keep your wife happy.
Yeah.
So they have no shame in talking about, getting erectile dysfunction handled. Then for women, we need to have that same level of freedom. That freedom needs to be there to express, are you having heavy periods? Do you need some help? This is where you go. This is what you do. Are you bleeding too much? Are you cramping? Do you have fibroids? What is the issue? It needs to not be hush hush. It needs to be second nature to just talk about these things openly and freely so that women can get free,
Right.
literally. Right? This is about our freedom, for real.
And
So
to talk to our daughters and our sons.
yes, to
Our
make them
sons so
recognize.
that they can respect what it is
Correct.
that the women are going through. But it
Exactly.
really starts with us having that awareness and connecting in that on that level
Mm-hmm.
to and having that respect.
Yes, most definitely. That respect for all that is woman, that, this is the bringer of life. So I must honor and respect and protect as a man. This is your job to protect this divine energy. Because this is real. Women are special. We're super special.
Yes, you are.
And we're complex. And yes, we probably stress you guys out, but it's not because we're trying to. It is our complexity is it sometimes is even baffling to us.
Mm-hmm.
For women who are not aware of their own divinity, they sometimes, get a little kooky. But you have to and not respect their own divinity. They don't respect that. Like, so you treat yourself a little less than you should, and then you tolerate being treated less than by someone else. So it's a work in progress for all of us. We all need to recognize how, and not saying that men don't have divinity in them too. It's just that we're talking about the ladies tonight. Okay, so don't get butt hurt.
Yeah.
Get your feelings hurt. It's all about just different energy. That's all.
Right.
But I do want to thank you guys for joining, for the exciting and riveting questions and comments and suggestions and such. It is always my pleasure to come and do this. I really love this. Is my next, I think probably my first calling, because you go through things. Your test becomes your testimony.
Right.
And you go through something because the divine felt that you were strong enough to handle it, so you could help the next person and help them to recognize that yes, they can go through it too and be victorious at the end. So this was my struggle to talk about. Yes, I did the surgical route. Yes, I did the natural route. Yes, I've done all the routes all together and found a happy medium for myself. And so that is what I share. I don't tell people, no, don't do the surgery, because you know what, surgery may be what you have to do. You may have to have that DNC.
Right.
You may have to have that hysterectomy. You may have to do whatever it is. Doesn't make you any less female. Doesn't make you any less woman. Doesn't make you any less of anything. So you have to find what works for you first of all. And and I'm one of those people that I'm like, listen, whatever works that makes you better and makes you feel better, because how you feel is really critical, then go for it. I'm fully in 100% support. And we need to sometimes, because I know a lot of the naturalists tend to fight down those who do surgery or have or take medication or take hormones or whatever they take. Listen, unless you walk in that woman's shoes, you don't know.
Right.
What she's going through and what she's had to deal with. So I respect, and I always say, listen, whatever works for you is what you need to do. I can advise you, but at the end of the day, you are your healer. So you need to figure what works best for you and what jives with your spirit and what sounds like, yes, this is the step I need to take.
Yep, definitely that.
Thank you guys so much for joining me tonight. I'll probably come back and do another little tidbit on this and go into a little bit more depth on some of the procedures and protocols and such, but don't hesitate to reach out, email, Facebook, Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I haven't really done a lot of stuff on TikTok, but I'm on TikTok, boo. So I'm actually gonna start. I'm actually gonna start working on. Yeah, right. I have, because I know how YouTube and all these are with the music. I'm having some original music made for Woman's Nest so that I can use those as a bed for my videos and such. So those are coming fast and furious. Those are in development at the moment. So look out for a lot of more information coming from Woman's Nest, more active in social media interaction, so you can kind of catch the vibe and catch the rhythm and get happy and jiggy with Women's Nest.
Nice.
Definitely. So thanks again for joining me. Thanks again, DJ Stu, for the opportunity to speak and share with the ladies what Women's Nest is, what we're about, and it's a movement, much like DJ Stu is a movement. Just really helping women understand and recognize the divinity within them, empowering them to be the best that they can be and live their best lives, and the men that love them as well, bringing the men along and enlightening and empowering them as well.
Yep. Thank you, Dr. J-Luv.
Anytime.
Much appreciate loved.
Anytime, my dear. Same here. God bless and take care. Stay safe. Drink your moringa, boost your immune system, and take good care.
I'll definitely try.
All right. Have a good night. Night, all.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. J-Luv, our very own chiropractor and so much more. Got to love her. Can't do anything but love her. Trust and believe.
EQ with a lovely day. EQ. Another day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This is what we're working towards.
Love your day, love your day, love your day.
Hey, Shar. I didn't even hear you.
Lovely day, lovely day, lovely, lovely day. Lovely, lovely, lovely day. Hey!
When I wake up in the morning, Lord, and the sunlight hurts my eyes.
The sound of EQ. Their rendition of Lovely Day.
With my warning, Lord, bears heavy on my mind. Then I look at you, and the world's alright with me. Oh, just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be a lovely day, a lovely day, a lovely day, a lovely day, a lovely day. When the day that lies ahead of me seems impossible to face, when someone else instead of me always seems to know the way, then I look at you, and the world's alright with me. Just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be a lovely day.
Oh, Marsha. Marsha. Edwards Quartet. Andre and Jean, Nicole and Marsha Edwards.
Seems impossible
Go by the name EQ.
when someone else instead of me always seems to know the way. Then I look at you, and the world's alright with me. Just one look at you, and I know it's gonna be a lovely day.
This is pretty much the extent of our musical therapy tonight. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for sharing.
When the day lies ahead of me seems impossible to face, when someone else instead of
Be sure to join me tomorrow, same time, same place, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here, kevinstew.com, as we close out the week.
then I look at you,
Real talk.
and the world's alright with me.
Call a friend, tell a friend.
Just
This is what we do. We learn to have acceptance through enlightenment.
and I know
It's a movement.
I'll be
kevinstew.com. Good morning, good afternoon, good day to you wherever you are in the world. From right here in South Florida, I bid you good night.
When the day lies ahead of me seems impossible to face, when someone else instead of me always seems to know the way.
Greetings and salutations, one and all. You're invited to tune in to the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. It airs on Mondays with Community and Finance, Tuesdays with Healthy Love, and Wednesdays with Real Talk from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Come spend some time interacting in the stew pot where we keep things bubbling and wind down in musical therapy. The night shift with DJ Kevin Stew is on kevinstew.com, where you're encouraged to have acceptance through enlightenment.